So just a reminder, this is the card that we're making. This is called the Sunburst, the Starburst. I'm not even really sure which one I called it, but either way, it's the exact same card. And it has a little wobble effect, which I hope you can see that. So that's always really fun. The best thing to do is to separate the different sizes or the different bursts, I'm going to say. So if you notice on the instruction guide and on the measurement guide, it tells you like you'll have one 4.5, they're 1.5 by 4.5 piece, but then on the directions it tells us to cut it apart. So you'll have two triangles, and this is our 4.5 inch piece. So why don't we put that up? Let's see if you can see it. Yeah. And then let's choose our 4, which will just obviously be the next size down. So if we're going straight down by the instructions, the first thing it tells us to do is to fold the card base at the 5.5 inch score line, which I already folded, but let's go ahead and burnish the edge. And also in here we have two different white mats. We're actually going to be working on the smaller of the two. And what you want to do with your pencil, just very lightly, just kind of about a half, oh, it's not a half, I'm sorry, 1.5 inches from the left and a 1 3/4 inch from the top. Now, it does not have to be perfect. I'm just, guessing. I mean, if you have a ruler, great. But so we're going to guess like around here, if you see that. And all that's doing is just giving you a general idea of where you want your points to go. So they are going to overlap where they're going to point to, and that's why you have these fun embellishments to cover that area. Matter of fact, they need to overlap in order for it to work out okay. So basically all we're going to do now is adhere the burst to the card. We're going to start at what I'm going to call the 12 o'clock, which is this one that says boo. And if we go in order that's on our paper, that's the 3-inch burst. And we're just going to, and this is an option too. If you want, you can put a little bit of glue just to kind of hold it. You do not want to cover it, just a little bit just to hold it, like a little dot. So put that, like around the 12 o'clock spot, right? Again, you see how it's not perfect on my circle, but it's just enough in that general area. So if you look at the hint on my direction sheet, it says we're going to go down. So now what's next is a 2-inch. If you look at my sample, I'm going to put this. We use the spider web. So that's what this one. And you want to leave a little bit of a gap, just a little bit. And the tip on this one is it needs to be high enough because, you see that point there? It has to cover, or not cover, but be higher than the cardstock. So you see how I have that here? Again, these are all temporary. We can play around with them, but we're leaving a little bit of a gap. We're making sure that tip, or that point, is above or at the cardstock line. And so what's next, according to our directions or our instruction sheet, is a 4-inch, which is the cat witch. And this one, we're going to put it here. Again, just a little tiny bit of glue. I don't know if you could see that. Just enough to kind of hold it. So in case for some reason you bumped your table or something. Again, you see how I'm overlapping, and it's all okay because we're going to cover it with this. Okay, what's next? A 2-inch, which in this case is a bat. And then again, same idea. a little bit of a gap, and that corner needs to be at least at the cardstock. Okay, so what's next? We did the bat. Bat was what, 2 inches? So what's next is 3-inch, excuse me, which are either the candy corn or the boo. Well, we already did the boo, so let's do the candy corn. Again, just like my sample. And we're going to do the same thing. Corner needs to be up at least at the edge of the cardstock. So after the 3.5, we'll go with the 5, or excuse me, the 4.5. And you can see right here how it's this upper part, and even as I'm looking at it, it looks like it needs to be about here. So I can tell already I'm going to have to adjust all these, because again, we have to cover the cardstock. So I'm going to put this down here because I think that's a good location, and we'll have to, oops, and we'll have to adjust.
I have a question.
What's the question? You see how I placed that down and I still had to adjust a little bit of that? So this was a 4.5. Now we're starting on the top on the second column, which is the 4-inch. And in this case, you know, again, it's the witch with the hat. You see how almost all of this one's on there. As long as the edge of your paper is either at or past the cardstock. And this area, again, we're going to cover this. Look at this. So it looks like that looks ugly. That looks beautiful. I cracked myself up. Didn't I tell you I was here to entertain? So that was the 4. Now we're back at 3. And on the sample, we did the boo. So let's keep the boo. And then we have the bat, which is a 2. Look at that. See what I'm saying? Now where am I going to adjust? So once you're done kind of fiddling and you're happy with how it's turning out, I feel like this needs to be a little bit, then you can go back and use more adhesive. And if you wanted to, you can even cut down some of these points, but like I said, it really doesn't matter because we're going to cover it up. But I don't know if you could see that, but the flatter the better, obviously. And you know, this is layers of layers. I mean, if you look at mine, if I'm looking here especially, I'm thinking this is not turning out right. I mean, look at that huge gap. Look at how they overlap, blah, 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 blah. But again, you need to remember that that's going to be covered. So once you're good and all your adhesive is down, we're going to turn it over. Use your scissors and just trim off those edges. And like I mentioned earlier, you might want to snip off some of your points here in the middle, just so it's not so bulky. You don't have to, because it is actually going to be covered anyways. but it'll give a little bit more flat surface. And then to give it this matted look, the white around the edges, you're going to mat this. And like I've told you before, instead of just plopping it down, put your fingers on the back first. Eyeball the center before you actually let go, and place it down. And then we're going to go ahead and adhere this to the center of the card base. Just want to center again. Use your fingers before adhering it, centering it, and then placing it down. I like to adhere the flat part of the card front to the card base before you start adding the bulk. Just makes it a little bit easier. Then we could put adhesive in the back of the, what would you call that? The circle, the orange circle. It's not an actual circle, but, and then just make sure that you covered all that middle portion. Rub it down. And then with that, you're going to get your little wobbler piece. There's one side that looks flat and then the other that has the hole in the middle. So the part with the hole in the middle is going to go on the back side of the boo. And this is just the adhesive liner. And just place it in the middle of your little medallion. Little ghosts already have the glue dot in the back, so when you peel it off, just make sure that you're grabbing the glue dot with it. I don't think you can see that. But, and then I put one up on the top of the boo, going towards the right, and then one on the bottom going towards the right as well, and then the one on the top going towards the left.